The morning sun rose over Valora Prime like it had done for 50 years, painting the terraformed domes in shades of gold and orange. Inside the colonial capital of New Providence, Governor Sarah Chen stood on the balcony of the administration building and watched her world wake up. 2.3 million souls called this planet home now. They had turned a dead rock into fields of wheat and corn. They had built cities and schools and parks where their children played. Today was the anniversary. 50 years since the first human boots touched Valoran soil. The streets below were already filling with people preparing for the celebration. Banners hung between buildings. Music drifted up from the central plaza where stages were being set up. Sarah smiled. This was what humanity did best. They built, they grew. They made homes in the darkness between stars. Her assistant rushed onto the balcony, his face pale. "Governor, we have incoming ships." "A lot of them." Sarah's smile faded. She followed him to the command center where screens showed space above their world. 30 warships had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Big ones. Their hulls carried the symbol of the Galactic Council. "Hail them," Sarah ordered. The main screen flickered. An alien face appeared. Ambassador Thexnor of the Council looked like a lizard that had learned to walk upright. His scales were deep purple and his eyes were cold. Sarah had met him once before, years ago. He had barely looked at her then. Humans were beneath the Council's notice. "Governor Chen," Thexnor said. His voice came through the translator as smooth and emotionless. "I bring orders from the Galactic Council High Command. This system has been rezoned. It now falls under the territorial claims of the Zathar hegemony. You have 48 hours to evacuate." Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. "Ambassador, there must be some mistake. We've held colonization rights to this system for 50 years. The Council approved our claim." "The Council has reconsidered," Thexnor said. "Your species is new to the galaxy. You should be grateful we permitted you this time at all. The Zathar are full Council members. Their needs supersede your temporary settlements." "Temporary?" Sarah's hands gripped the edge of the console. "We've terraformed 3 planets here. We've built cities. This is our home. You are upstart primitives who barely understand the technology you use," Thexnor replied. His tone never changed. He might have been discussing the weather. 48 hours. Gather what you can carry and leave. If you remain, you will be removed by force." The screen went dark. Sarah stood frozen. Around her, the command staff stared in shock. Someone was crying. "Get me Earth," Sarah said quietly, "and start evacuation procedures." But even as she gave the orders, she knew. 48 hours to move 2 million people across light years. It was impossible. The Council knew it was impossible. The Valorans knew something was wrong within minutes. The insectoid aliens had shared this system with the humans since the beginning. They were peaceful. They farmed the second planet while humans took the first and third. Their children played together in the neutral space station that orbited between worlds. Queen Mother Zixara contacted Sarah directly. Her translator turned her clicking mandibles into words. "We have heard the Council's message. This is wrong. We will stand with you." "You can't," Sarah said. "Your people will be caught in this too." "We are already caught," Zixara replied. "The Council has labeled us collaborators with lesser species. If you fall, they will take our worlds next. At least if we fight together, we fight for something that matters." Sarah wanted to argue, but she saw the truth in the Valoran Queen's words. The Council was cleaning house, removing everyone they considered unworthy. The next 2 days were chaos. Every ship that could fly was loaded with people. Children, elderly, medical patients. Not enough ships. Never enough ships. They could maybe evacuate 50,000 if they were lucky. The rest would have to hope the Council was bluffing. The Valorans sent their ships too. Their massive cargo haulers that smelled like the flowers they exported across the sector. Together, humans and Valorans worked through the night. Sarah didn't sleep. She walked through New Providence as people packed their lives into bags. She held crying children. She promised things would be okay, even though she knew they might not be. When the 48 hours ended, she stood in the command center again. 847 people had made it off-planet. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. The Council fleet moved into attack position. Sarah sent one last message. "Ambassador Thexnor, we have families here, children. Please give us more time." The response came quickly. Thexnor's face filled the screen. For the first time, she saw emotion there. He was smiling. "You should have left when you had the chance," he said. The first missile struck New Providence's eastern district. Sarah watched on the screens as the building where she'd had breakfast that morning disappeared in fire. Then another hit. And another. The orbital defense platforms fired back, but they were designed to stop pirates and asteroids, not military warships. Council vessels tore through them like paper. Sarah grabbed the communications console. All evacuation ships, run! Get out of the system now. The fleeing transports and cargo haulers scattered. The Council let most of them go, but some they didn't. Sarah watched a Valoran transport carrying 200 human children explode. The insects had died trying to save human young. On the ground, cities burned. The Council bombardment was precise. They weren't destroying infrastructure. They were destroying people. Sarah saw residential districts targeted, schools, hospitals. She realized with cold horror that this wasn't a removal. It was an extermination. Why? She whispered. Nobody answered. Maybe there was no answer. Maybe the Council simply wanted to send a message to humanity. Know your place. Accept what we give you. Or die. The command center shook. Close hit. Alarm screamed. Sarah looked at her staff. Young men and women who had dedicated their lives to building this colony. Everyone out, she ordered. Get to the shelters. They hesitated. She pulled her sidearm and pointed it at them. That's an order. They ran. Sarah sat down at the console and began recording. If anyone survived, they needed to know what happened here. Earth needed to know. This is Governor Sarah Chen of Valora Prime, she began. Her voice was steady. At 0900 hours local time, the Galactic Council fleet opened fire on our colony without provocation. They are targeting civilians. They are targeting children. Current casualty estimates are... The building shook again. Harder. The lights went out. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in red. Sarah kept recording. She listed every crime she could see on the screens. Every law the Council was breaking. Every species they claimed to protect with their high-minded principles. In space, the Valoran homeworld was burning too. 16 million insects died trying to protect their friends. The last thing Sarah recorded was Ambassador Thexanor's ship hovering over New Providence. She could see weapons charging, targeting the bunkers where civilians hid. Remember us, she said to the camera. Remember what they did here. And make them pay. The recording cut off. 3 weeks later, the distress signal from the 847 survivors reached Earth. They had crowded into damaged ships, wounded and traumatized. Their message was simple. Valora Prime was gone. 2.3 million humans dead, 16 million Valorans dead, all because the Council decided they didn't matter. Admiral Marcus Stone sat in the Admiralty boardroom and watched the footage. He watched children burn. He watched the Valorans die defending human evacuation ships. He watched Governor Chen's final message. When it ended, silence filled the room. Stone was an old man. He had fought in the border wars. He had seen death. But this was different. This was murder on a scale that took his breath away. He stood slowly and looked at the other admirals, at the generals, at the politicians who had gathered. Gentlemen, he said quietly, we're going to war. Nobody argued. The halls of United Terran Command were built to impress. Marble floors reflected the lights of Earth cities through massive windows. Flags from every nation hung from the ceiling, united under one banner now, the banner of humanity reaching for the stars. Today those halls were filled with rage. Admiral Marcus Stone walked past protesters who had gathered outside. Thousands of them. They held signs with the names of Valora Prime's dead. They chanted for justice. Some called for blood, Stone understood. He felt the same fury burning in his chest. Inside the command center, every screen showed the same footage. Governor Chen's final message. The Valoran transport exploding. Cities burning. Again and again it played on news channels across Earth. 4 billion people had watched it now. 4 billion people who were demanding their leaders do something. The Council has responded to our demands, Admiral Zhang said as Stone entered the strategy room. She was young for her rank, only 40, but she'd earned her position commanding the Mars Defense Fleet. They sent this. The screen showed Ambassador Thexanor. He was laughing. Actually laughing. The humans demand justice? He said through the translator. For what? We removed squatters from territory that was not theirs. We removed a species that corrupted Council subjects with their primitive ideas. You should be grateful we showed such restraint. Any human vessel that leaves the Sol system will be destroyed. Return to your homeworld and accept your place in the galaxy. You are nothing. You own nothing. You are permitted to exist at the Council's pleasure. The message ended. Stone looked around the room at his fellow officers. I think we've heard enough. Marcus, we need to be smart about this, General Okonkwo said. He commanded Earth's ground forces and he was cautious by nature. The Council has 47 member species. Thousands of worlds. We're one planet. We're one planet that's been preparing for this moment for 80 years, Stone replied. When humanity had made first contact with the Galactic Council in 2207, it had been a moment of joy. They'd met the Zorathi at the edge of the solar system. Peaceful traders, friendly aliens who welcomed Earth to the galactic community. That joy lasted about 6 months. The Council reviewed Earth's application for membership. They examined human history, wars, violence, the nuclear age, the climate disasters of the 21st century. They saw a species that fought itself constantly. Application denied. Humanity was too aggressive, too violent, unsuitable for civilized space. They could trade on the fringes, but they would never be equals. Stone remembered the fury that decision had caused. The shame. But Earth's leaders had learned from it. If the galaxy saw them as violent primitives, then they would be ready when that violence was needed. Activate Protocol Heracles, Stone said. Admiral Zhang nodded and entered her codes. Around the solar system, signals went out. Signals to places the Council didn't know existed. Beyond Neptune, massive hangar doors opened in the ice. 30 dreadnoughts emerged. Each one was 2 kilometers long and bristling with weapons. They had been built in secret over decades. Built with technology humanity had reverse-engineered from every alien device they could buy, steal, or study. The Council thought humans were primitive. They thought human ships were barely capable of interstellar travel. They were wrong. Status report, Stone ordered. All 30 dreadnoughts are operational, Zhang replied. Full crews. Full munitions. The fleet can be ready to move in 12 hours. Stone pulled up the tactical display. It showed the 30 warships. Against the Council's thousands, it looked like nothing. But Stone knew what those ships could do. What humanity had built into them. The Council had banned certain weapons centuries ago. Kinetic kill vehicles that could crack planets. Antimatter torpedoes. AI-guided swarm missiles that could think and adapt. Nuclear weapons were considered barbaric. Railguns that could accelerate projectiles to relativistic speeds were seen as excessive. Earth had built all of them. What about the defense grid? Stone asked. Orbital Massey cannons are online, General Okonkwo reported. Lunar bases are armed. Mars defense fleet is ready. If the Council tries to attack Earth, they'll pay for it. Stone nodded, but he didn't plan to wait for the Council to come to them. Parliament is in session now, Admiral Zhang said. They need to authorize military action. Stone turned to the window. Below, Earth glowed in the darkness. 7 billion people. Humanity's home. The world the Council could threaten with the push of a button. The debate in Parliament was fierce. Some argued that fighting was suicide. The Council was too powerful. Humanity should accept the loss of Valora Prime and retreat behind Sol's borders. At least they'd be alive. Others argued that life without dignity wasn't worth living. That if they let the Council massacre colonists without response, they'd never be safe. The Council would come for Earth eventually. The survivors from Valora Prime were brought to testify. A young woman named Rebecca stood before Parliament with burns covering half her body. She described watching the Council bomb a school. Deliberately targeted. She described Ambassador Thexnor's message to the planet. He called our children vermin, she said quietly. He said the galaxy would be cleaner without us. Then he laughed while his ships fired. The chamber fell silent. The vote was called. It was unanimous. Every nation, every representative, Earth would go to war. Stone received the authorization at midnight. He stood in the command center surrounded by officers who looked both excited and terrified. They had trained for this, drilled for this, but training was different from reality. Send the message to the Council, Stone ordered. The communication went out on every frequency, every language, directed at every Council world. This is Admiral Marcus Stone of the United Terran Command. You have committed an act of genocide against human colonists and our Valoran allies. We demand the immediate surrender of Ambassador Thexnor, Admiral Vextil, and all commanders involved in the Valora Prime massacre. You will stand trial for war crimes. You have 24 hours to comply. The response came in 3 hours. It wasn't from Thexnor. It was from the Council High Command itself. 7 species sitting in judgment. They looked at the camera with the bored arrogance of beings who had ruled the galaxy for centuries. The humans are children playing with weapons they don't understand, the Council speaker said. Any ship that leaves your system will be obliterated. Any world that harbors humans will be punished. This is your only warning. Accept your place or be removed from the galaxy entirely. The message ended with an image. A Council fleet of 200 ships gathering at Kepler Station, just 50 light-years from Sol. A clear threat. A clear message. Stone looked at the image for a long moment. Then he smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. They've gathered their fleet in one place, he said. How convenient. Admiral Zhang understood immediately. We hit them before they can move. Exactly, Stone said. He turned to his communications officer. Order all ships to Kepler Station. Maximum stealth. Get us in close before they know we're there. Sir, jumping in close to a station is dangerous, the officer said. If our calculations are off, then we die, Stone interrupted. But we die fighting. That's more than Valora Prime got. The fleet moved in darkness, 30 dreadnoughts running silent through the nothing between stars. Their crews were volunteers. Every single person aboard had asked to be there, had demanded to be there. In the crew quarters of the dreadnought Indomitable, Captain Sarah Rodriguez addressed her people. She was 28 and had lost her brother on Valora Prime. He'd been a teacher. The Council thinks we're primitives, she said to the assembled soldiers and sailors. They think we're savages who got lucky with some stolen tech. They think we'll roll over and accept whatever they do to us. She paused and looked at the faces around her, human faces, every color, every background. United by one thing, let's show them what primitives can do. The crew erupted in cheers. Stone stood on the bridge of Indomitable as they approached Kepler Station. The Council fleet was visible now. 200 ships in formation. Big ones, powerful ones. Each one could probably match a human dreadnought in firepower, but they weren't ready. They weren't expecting an attack. The Council hadn't fought a real war in 6 centuries. They'd forgotten what it meant to face an enemy that wanted to hurt them. All ships report ready, Admiral Zhang said. Stone took a breath. This was it. The moment that would define humanity's future. Win or lose, the galaxy would never see them the same way again. Weapons free, he ordered. Kill them all. The Terran fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly inside the Council's defensive perimeter. Point-blank range. Impossible range. The Council didn't even have time to raise shields. Stone watched through the windows as the first railgun salvos reached their targets. Tungsten rods accelerated to 40% the speed of light. When they hit, Council shields designed to stop energy weapons simply ceased to exist. The rods punched through hulls like they were made of paper. Antimatter torpedoes followed. Each one was a star's death compressed into a missile. When they detonated, Council cruisers broke apart. Capital ships tumbled through space, bleeding atmosphere and crew. The AI-guided swarm missiles came last. Millions of them. Each one no bigger than a fist. Each one smart enough to pick its own target. They covered the Council ships like locusts, finding weak points, reactor cores, bridge sections. In the first 90 seconds, Admiral Vextil of the Council Defense Fleet stood in his command chamber, aboard the massive dreadnought Eternal Glory, and celebrated his victory. Around him, holographic displays showed the ruins of Valora Prime, still burning, still beautiful in its destruction. Pour the wine, he ordered his attendants. They were Krell, a small species that the Council had uplifted centuries ago. They existed to serve. That was the natural order. Vextil was Zathar, one of the founding Council races. His species looked like walking mantises, all sharp angles and clicking mandibles. They had ruled this sector of space for 3,000 years. They would rule it for 3,000 more. The wine was from Earth, ironically. Humans made excellent wine. They would make excellent servants, too, once they learned their place. Status of the fleet? Vextil asked. 200 ships at full readiness, his tactical officer reported. Kepler Station defenses are online. Long-range sensors show nothing but routine traffic. The humans won't come, Vextil said confidently. They're cowards. They'll hide behind their moon and hope we forget about them. His officers laughed. It was expected. Vextil was not just an admiral. He was nobility. third son of the Zathar Prime Mother. His word was law. He turned to the holographic display of Valora Prime. Increase the detail on Sector 7. The image zoomed in. Vextil could see individual buildings now, or what was left of them. He smiled. The residential district had burned completely. 2 million primitives erased in an afternoon. My lord, the tactical officer said hesitantly, we're detecting anomalies on the long-range sensors. What kind of anomalies? Unknown contacts. 30 of them, moving at high speed. They're coming from the direction of Sol. Vextil's mandibles clicked in amusement. Only 30 ships? The humans are even more foolish than I thought. Ready the fleet for combat. This will be over quickly. But something was wrong. The contacts were moving too fast. Faster than any council ship could travel in normal space. And they weren't slowing down. Contact speed? Vextil demanded. 0.7 light speed and accelerating, my lord. That's impossible. Obviously, it's not impossible if they're doing it, Vextil snapped. Raise shields. All ships to combat formation. The council fleet began to move. 200 warships, each one a masterpiece of technology developed over millennia. Their shields could withstand the heat of a star. Their weapons could crack moons. They were invincible. The human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, inside the defensive perimeter. Vextil stared at the tactical display in shock. The humans had jumped to a point that should have been impossible to calculate. They were scattered through the council formation. Point-blank range, suicide range, all weapons fire, he screamed. Too late. The first human salvo hit before the council could even target their enemies. Vextil watched in horror as his forward screen showed a cruiser simply cease to exist. No explosion, no fire. It was just there one moment and gone the next, replaced by expanding debris. Report, he demanded. Kinetic weapons, my lord. Moving at relativistic speeds. Our shields aren't designed for that kind of impact. Another ship died, then another. The humans were using weapons that civilized species had banned 600 years ago. Crude, barbaric, devastatingly effective. Return fire. Kill them. The council ships began to shoot back. Energy beams powerful enough to boil oceans lanced through space. Missiles that could track a target across light years streaked toward the human vessels. The human ships dodged. Vextil watched in disbelief as 30 human dreadnoughts moved through space like fighters. They shouldn't be able to maneuver like that. Ships that size were too massive for that kind of acceleration. The G-forces would crush the crew, unless the humans had better gravity compensation than the Council, unless they'd been hiding their true capabilities for 80 years. They tricked us, Vextil whispered. They let us think they were primitive. A human dreadnought flew past Eternal Glory's main viewport. Vextil saw its name painted on the hull in human letters. Indomitable. Below that was an image. A human hand making a rude gesture. The ship's weapons fired at point-blank range. Eternal Glory's shields held, but the ship rocked from the impact. Vextil was thrown from his command throne. Damage report. Forward shields at 40%. Hull breach on decks 12 through 15. Casualties in the hundreds. One attack. One attack had done that much damage. Vextil had fought in the border wars against the Zelthari swarm. Those were considered the Council's most dangerous enemies. The swarm had never hurt his ship like this. The battle, if it could be called that, raged for 47 minutes. Vextil watched his proud fleet die ship by ship. The humans moved in groups of 3, supporting each other, covering each other. They fought like they'd been doing this for centuries, instead of hours. A communications channel opened. Vextil found himself staring at a human face. Male, old, with eyes like ice. I am Admiral Marcus Stone of the United Terran Command, the human said. This is for Valora Prime. You can't do this, Vextil said. His translator turned his clicking into human speech. We are the Council. We maintain order in the galaxy. You are nothing. Primitives with stolen technology. We didn't steal anything, Stone replied. We learned. We adapted. We improved. While you spent 600 years patting yourselves on the back for being civilized, we prepared for war, because that's what primitives do. We survive. Another explosion rocked eternal glory. More alerts. More casualties. Your shields are failing, Stone said. It wasn't a taunt, just a statement of fact. Your engines are damaged. You can't run. Your fleet is broken. In 5 minutes you will die unless you surrender. Vextil looked around his command chamber. Half the stations were unmanned. Bodies lay on the floor. The beautiful holographic displays were cracked and sparking. Through the viewport he could see 3 human dreadnoughts moving into position. Their weapons were charging. He had been so confident, so certain of Council superiority. Now he was about to die because he'd underestimated these apes who'd barely learned to walk upright. I surrender, he said quietly. Louder, Stone ordered, and broadcast it to your fleet. Vextil straightened. He was Zathar nobility. Even in defeat he had pride. He opened a channel to all Council ships. This is Admiral Vextil. Cease fire. All ships stand down. We surrender to the humans. The remaining Council ships, what few were left, powered down their weapons. Of the 200 that had started the battle, only 17 survived. 17. The humans had destroyed 183 warships in less than an hour. Smart choice, Stone said. We're sending boarding parties. You and your senior staff will be taken into custody. You'll stand trial for war crimes. War crimes? Vextil's mandibles clicked in confusion. We followed council law. We enforced council edicts. Your council law doesn't apply to us, Stone replied. Human law does. And under human law, you murdered 2 million civilians. That's a war crime. You targeted children. That's a war crime. You destroyed medical facilities. That's a war crime. We have a long list. The human admiral's face disappeared from the screen. Minutes later, Vextil felt his ship shake as magnetic clamps attached to the hull. The humans were boarding. They came through the airlocks in armor that made them look like monsters. Black and gray with helmets that hid their faces. They moved with precision, weapons up, covering every angle. This wasn't a rabble. This was a professional military that had trained for decades. A human soldier, a female by the size, approached Vextil. Admiral Vextil? Yes. You're under arrest. She pulled restraints from her belt and locked them around his wrists. They were designed for humans, too small for his Zathar anatomy, but they held. Vextil was led through his own ship like a criminal. His crew watched in stunned silence as their admiral was marched past. The humans had set up medical stations in the corridors. They were treating wounded council soldiers, saving the lives of their enemies. Vextil didn't understand why save them. Why not just execute everyone and be done with it? He was brought to a shuttle bay where other council officers were being gathered. Captains, commanders, all of them prisoners now. All of them facing trial. The shuttle ride to the human flagship was short. Vextil found himself in a holding cell that was clean and well lit. The humans gave him water, food appropriate for his biology, medical attention for the injuries he'd sustained when thrown from his throne. Admiral Stone visited him that evening. The old human stood outside the cell and studied Vextil like a scientist examining an interesting specimen. Why did you do it? Stone asked. Valora Prime. Why kill all those people? They were in the way, Vextil said. The Zathar wanted those worlds. The council gave them to us. The humans refused to leave. It was simple. Simple, Stone repeated. He was quiet for a long moment. Do you know how long it took us to terraform Valora Prime? 50 years. An entire generation spent turning dead rock into living worlds. Children were born there, grew up there. It was their home. They should have chosen a different home. Stone's face hardened. You're going to stand trial. You're going to answer for why. The council citadel hung in space like a jewel. It was built from materials that didn't exist in nature, metals that could withstand the heat of a star, crystal windows that could see across dimensions. It had stood for 3,000 years as a monument to galactic civilization. Today it was a monument to panic. High Council Speaker, Zoramek stood before the assembled representatives of 47 species and tried to maintain order. It wasn't working. Everyone was shouting. Some were demanding war. Others were calling for peace. A few were quietly discussing how to abandon the council before it fell. Silence. Zoramex's voice boomed through the chamber. He was Kralex, a species that looked like walking crystals. His voice could shatter glass when he wanted it to. We will proceed with order. The chamber quieted. Barely. The humans have committed an act of war, Zoramex said. They destroyed a council fleet. They took council officers prisoner. This cannot stand. They responded to our act of war, a voice called out. It was Representative Kixal of the Verdani. Her species looked like plants that had gained intelligence. They were pacifists who had joined the council for protection. We destroyed Valora Prime, we killed millions. The humans defended themselves. They killed thousands of council soldiers. The Zathar representative shrieked. They must pay. With what? Kixal shot back. We sent 200 ships. They sent 30, we lost. Clearly we underestimated them. Zoramex held up one crystalline hand. The War Council has prepared a response. We are mobilizing the Grand Armada, 2,000 ships from 12 member species. We will crush the human rebellion and restore order. The chamber fell silent. 2,000 ships. That was more military force than the Council had assembled in centuries. It was overkill. It was meant to be. When do they move? Someone asked. They are gathering now, Zoramex said. In 1 week, the Grand Armada will enter the Sol system. Earth will surrender or be destroyed. Across Council space, the Armada gathered. Massive dreadnoughts from the Zathar, fast cruisers from the Zelthari, heavy assault carriers from the Kroth. 12 species contributing their most powerful ships. Commander Zexith was given overall command. He was Zelthari, an insectoid species known for their strategic genius. He had never lost a battle in 40 years of service. He stood in his flagship's command center and studied the reports from Kepler Station. The humans had used speed and surprise. They had weapons the Council thought were extinct. They fought without honor or restraint. We won't underestimate them, Zexith said to his officers. The humans are dangerous, but they have 30 ships. We have 2,000. Even if each human ship destroys 10 of ours, we still win. His officers clicked their approval. The math was simple. The humans couldn't win. What Zexith didn't know was that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology. It was their nature. The human fleet had scattered after Kepler Station. The 30 dreadnoughts split into groups of 3 and disappeared into deep space. The Council thought they were hiding. Running scared, they were hunting. Captain Maria Rodriguez commanded the destroyer Retribution. It was smaller than a dreadnought, only 500 meters long, but it was fast. Her crew of 200 had volunteered for a special mission. They called it Operation Ghost. Target is in range, her tactical officer reported. Council supply convoy. 10 freighters, 4 escort ships. Maria smiled. The Council was gathering an armada, which meant they needed supplies, fuel, ammunition, food for thousands of crews. All of it had to be shipped from core worlds to the staging area. Humanity was going to make that very difficult. Attack pattern Delta, she ordered. Kill the escorts first. Retribution dropped out of FTL directly behind the convoy. The Council escorts didn't even have time to turn around before human missiles hit them. 2 died instantly. The other 2 tried to run. Let them go, Maria said. Focus on the freighters. The Retribution's railguns spoke. Tungsten rods accelerated to impossible speeds. 10 freighters carrying fuel and ammunition exploded in sequence. The destruction was so fast that Maria barely saw it happen. Jumping out, her helmsman said. They disappeared back into FTL before reinforcements could arrive. Total engagement time, 90 seconds. Across Council space, 10 more human ships were doing the same thing. Hitting supply lines, destroying fuel depots, raiding shipyards. The Council's logistics network, which had run smoothly for centuries, began to fall apart. The Grand Armada's gathering was delayed. Ships sat idle, waiting for fuel that never came. Ammunition reserves ran low. Crews went on half rations. Commander Zexith raged at his logistics officers. Where are my supplies? The humans are everywhere, sir. We can't protect every convoy. Every depot. They strike and vanish before we can respond. Then hunt them down. But hunting ghosts was hard. The human ships never stayed in one place, never followed a pattern. They were unpredictable, chaotic, primitive. They were winning. The Battle of Crucis Nebula happened 3 weeks later. The Council had finally gathered enough of their armada, 1,000 ships. Not the 2,000 they wanted, but enough. They entered the Crucis Nebula looking for a human supply base that intelligence said was there. What they found was 30 human dreadnoughts waiting in the radiation clouds. The nebula was a nightmare for sensors. The high-energy particles scattered scanner beams. Visual targeting was impossible through the swirling gases. The Council ships were blind. The humans weren't. Maria Rodriguez's retribution was there with the dreadnoughts. She watched on the screens as Council ships blundered through the nebula in formation. Beautiful formations designed to look impressive. Useless formations for a real fight. They're lined up like target practice, her tactical officer laughed. Then let's practice, Maria said. The human fleet attacked from every angle. Ships appeared out of the nebula clouds, fired and disappeared back into the radiation. The Council couldn't coordinate their defense. Captains were shooting at ghosts while human torpedoes hit them from behind. Commander Zexith tried to maintain order. All ships, break formation. Scatter into the nebula! Deny them easy targets. But breaking formation just made it worse. Now Council ships were alone in the clouds. Easy prey for human hunter-killer groups. A communication came through to Zexith's flagship. A human face appeared on his screen. Female. Young. Smiling. Commander Zexith, Captain Rodriguez said, I'm sending you a message to deliver to your council. I don't take messages from primitives. You'll take this one. Her smile never wavered. You wanted to see how primitives fight? You wanted to test yourself against humanity? Congratulations. You're losing. Zexith's mandibles clicked in fury. We outnumber you 30-1. And yet we're killing you, Maria replied. Want to know why? Because you forgot what war means. You've been playing at civilization for so long that you forgot. War isn't about honor. It isn't about fair fights. It's about making the other side hurt so badly they beg for peace. She leaned closer to the camera. Tell your council we're coming. Tell them we won't stop until they answer for Valora Prime. Tell them that Earth remembers, and we never forgive. The screen went dark. Seconds later, Retribution appeared off the flagship's port side. Too close. Way too close for safe maneuvering. Maria had personally taken the helm. Ram speed, she ordered, Captain. Her helmsman looked shocked. You heard me. Ram speed. And evacuate the ship. All hands to escape pods, move! Maria sat alone on the bridge of Retribution as alarms blared. Her crew was abandoning ship. Getting to safety. She'd make sure they all got clear before she did what needed to be done. She thought about her brother, Daniel. He'd taught 3rd grade on Valora Prime. He'd shown her pictures of his students. 28 kids between 8 and 10 years old. Ambassador Thexnor had bombed his school. Deliberately targeted it. Daniel had died trying to shield his students with his own body. It hadn't worked. They'd all died together. This is for you, Danny, Maria whispered. She punched the engines to full. Retribution accelerated directly toward Commander Zexith's flagship. The Council ship tried to move, too slow, too late. Maria's destroyer hit the flagship's bridge section at a significant fraction of light speed. The collision released enough energy to mimic a small nuclear weapon. Both ships simply ceased to exist. The last escape pod carrying Maria's crew watched from a distance. They saw their captain die. They saw her take Commander Zexith with her. Honor to the captain, someone whispered. The battle continued for 6 more hours. When it ended, the Council had lost 400 ships. The humans had lost 5. Captain Rodriguez's sacrifice had taken out the Council's most brilliant strategic commander and destroyed their flagship. News of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than light. Species that the Council had conquered centuries ago heard the stories. They heard how humans fought, how they won against impossible odds, how one woman had given her life to kill a Council commander. Rebellions began. Small at first, a mining colony refusing quotas, a subject species demanding representation. But they grew. The Council was fracturing. On Earth, Maria Rodriguez was declared a hero. Her family received medals. Her name was written on memorials. Songs were composed about the captain who rammed a flagship. Admiral Stone attended the memorial service. He stood with Maria's mother and watched as they burned her uniform according to old naval tradition. The smoke rose into the sky above the Atlantic. She shouldn't have done it. Maria's the Council fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system like a wave of darkness. 500 ships, the largest armada assembled in 6 centuries. At the center was Oblivion, a vessel so large it had its own gravity. Fleet Master Zar then commanded from Oblivion's bridge. He was ancient by Council standards, over 200 years old. He had been there when the Council first banned the stellar converter weapons. He had argued against it then. Now he would prove he'd been right. Status of the weapon? He demanded. Charging, Fleet Master. It will be ready to fire in 6 hours. 6 hours to reach Earth's orbit. 6 hours to position the stellar converter. 6 hours until humanity's homeworld burned. All ships advance. Defensive formation. The humans will try to stop us. The fleet moved forward slowly, cautiously. They had learned from Kepler Station and Crucis Nebula. No more mistakes. No more surprises. On Earth, Admiral Stone watched the approaching armada on the tactical displays. 500 ships versus 30. The math was worse than ever. But humanity had never been good at math when it came to war. Status of the defense grid? He asked. Orbital MAC cannons are online. General Okonkwo reported. Lunar base is ready. Mars fleet is inbound. We've got everything we can muster. Everything they could muster. 30 dreadnoughts, 40 smaller warships, the orbital defenses, against 500 council ships and a weapon that could destroy their entire world. Sir, the communications officer said, we're receiving a transmission. Audio only. It's not from the council. Put it through. The voice that came through the speakers was mechanical, clicking and chittering, but the translator made it understandable. Admiral Stone, this is Queen Mother Zixara of New Valora. We heard about the council fleet. We're coming to help. Stone felt his throat tighten. The Valorans, the survivors from Valora Prime. They had rebuilt on a new world under human protection. They had every reason to hide. To stay safe, Your Majesty, you don't have to do this. This isn't your fight. You're wrong, Admiral. Zixara's translated voice was firm. The Council murdered 16 million of my people. They killed us because we stood with humans. We will always stand with humans. We're 30 minutes behind the Council fleet. We bring 70 ships. It's not much, but it's what we have. Before Stone could respond, another transmission came through. Then another, and another. The Verdani sent 20 ships. They had never fought before. They were coming anyway. The Krell sent 15. They had been Council servants for centuries. Not anymore, the Tarathi sent 50. A warrior species who had watched humanity fight and decided they wanted to be on the winning side. Species that had been oppressed. Species that had been ignored. Species that had seen Earth stand up to the Council and found their own courage. We're receiving over 200 Allied ships, the tactical officer reported in amazement. They're all converging on Sul. Stone closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, they were wet. Send a message to all Allied vessels, he said. Welcome to Earth. Welcome to humanity's last stand. Let's make it count. The Council fleet detected the new contacts an hour later. Fleet Master Zar then studied the displays with growing concern. Where did all these ships come from? Multiple species, Fleet Master. Former Council members. Rebel groups. They're joining the humans. This is impossible. We rule the galaxy. We maintain order. They can't simply rebel, but they could. And they were. It doesn't matter, Zar then said finally. We still outnumber them. Oblivion's weapon will end this. Continue the advance, but doubt had entered his mind. For the first time in 200 years, Fleet Master Zar then wondered if the Council had made a mistake. The battle for Earth began when the Council fleet reached the asteroid belt. That's where Admiral Stone had positioned his first defense line. Human dreadnoughts hiding among the rocks. Allied ships scattered through the debris field. The Council ships entered cautiously. Their sensors swept back and forth looking for threats. They found them everywhere. The asteroid belt erupted with weapons fire, railguns, missiles, energy beams from a dozen different species. The Council's front line collapsed under the assault. All ships return fire, Zar then ordered. Push through. We must reach Earth. The Council fleet pushed forward. They had the numbers. They had the firepower. Slowly, meter by meter, they advanced through the belt, but they were bleeding. Ships exploded. Hulls breached. Crews died. The asteroids gave the defenders perfect cover and perfect ambush points. Admiral Stone watched from the bridge of Indomitable. His ship was stationed near Mars, holding back for the final defense. He could see the battle unfolding. Could see his people dying to slow the Council advance. How long until Oblivion reaches firing position? He asked. 4 hours at current speed, 4 hours. That's all they had. Admiral, the communications officer said, we're receiving a message from someone inside the Council fleet. Audio only. They claimed to be a defector. Put it through. The voice that came through was nervous, scared. Admiral Stone, this is Science Officer Kelvin of the Kralix. I'm on Oblivion. I helped design the stellar converter. I'm sending you the technical specifications. The weapon has a weakness. Data began flooding into the tactical computers. Stone pulled it up on his display. The stellar converter was massive, powerful, but like all weapons, it had vulnerabilities. The charging chamber, Kelvin explained. If you can breach it before the weapon fires, it will overload. The feedback will destroy Oblivion from the inside. Where is this charging chamber? Center of the ship, protected by armor and shields. You'd have to board the vessel, fight through the crew. It would be suicide. Stone looked at the schematics. Kelvin was right. It would be suicide, but it was the only option. Thank you, Science Officer. Get to an escape pod. Get clear of that ship. I will. Good luck, Admiral. For what it's worth, not all Council species support this. Some of us know this is wrong. The transmission ended. Stone turned to his senior officers. I need volunteers for a boarding action. We're going on to Oblivion. We're going to stop that weapon from the inside. Everyone volunteered. Admiral Zhang, General Okonkwo, every officer on the bridge. Even the young ensigns who were barely old enough to serve. Zhang, you're with me, Stone said. Okonkwo, you have command of the fleet. If we fail, evacuate as many people as you can. Find them a new home. Keep humanity alive, Okonkwo saluted. There were tears on his face. The boarding team assembled in the hangar bay. 50 Marines in combat armor. Admiral Stone and Admiral Zhang in lighter gear. They loaded onto an assault shuttle designed to punch through enemy defenses. This is a one-way trip, Stone said to his Marines. That weapon fires in 3 hours. We have to stop it. No matter the cost, the Marines didn't flinch. They were volunteers. They had all lost someone to the Council. This was their chance for justice. The shuttle launched into the chaos of battle. Council ships were still pushing through the asteroid belt. Allied vessels were dying to slow them down. The shuttle was small, fast. It threaded through the battle. Like a needle through cloth, Oblivion loomed. Ahead. Massive. Terrible. Already its charging vents were glowing with building energy. Breaching in 30 seconds, the pilot said. The shuttle hit Oblivion's hull at high speed. Magnetic clamps locked on. Cutting torches burned through the armor. The Marines poured through the breach into a Council corridor. Fighting erupted immediately. Council security forces met them with energy weapons. The corridor filled with fire and death. Marines fell, but the advance continued. They had to reach the charging chamber. Nothing else mattered. Admiral Stone fought with a rifle he hadn't carried in 20 years. He was too old for this, too slow, but fury kept him moving. Every Council soldier he saw wore the same uniform as the ones who had burned Valora Prime. They pushed deeper into Oblivion. The ship was a maze of corridors and chambers. They were getting close to the charging chamber. Stone could feel it. The air itself seemed to vibrate with building energy. Contact front. A Marine yelled. A Council defense squad had blocked their path. Heavy weapons. Good cover. The Marines charged anyway. Half of them died in the first 10 seconds. But they got close enough for grenades. The Council position collapsed. Keep moving, Stone ordered. Admiral Zhang was beside him, breathing hard. Marcus, there's too many of them. We're not going to make it. Yes, we are, Stone said. He didn't believe it. But he said it anyway. They reached the charging chamber. The door was massive, reinforced, locked. Blow it, Stone ordered. Marines placed charges. Everyone took cover. The explosion was deafening in the enclosed space. The door buckled but held, again. More charges. Another explosion. The door fell inward. The charging chamber was enormous. In the center was a sphere of pure energy contained by magnetic fields. It pulsed like a heartbeat, growing stronger, building toward the moment when it would unleash hell on Earth. Plant the charges, Stone said. Overload the containment. Let's end this. The Marines spread out, placing explosives on the containment pylons. They had minutes, maybe less. Fleetmaster Czar then received the alert on Oblivion's bridge. Intruders in the charging chamber, what?